Hello, hello everyone, and welcome to the very, very first episode of Revelations in Science. I'm your host, the Right Reverend Jeff Holiday. This is a new program, obviously. We're trying something new on this channel. We're starting a religion. However, we're not starting a faith. It's a very, very important distinction there. The main reason for this, of course, is because, well, needs to do something. There has to be more of a push, a better way to really try and combat misinformation and to promote the things that ultimately are going to make our lives a lot better, and collectively the lives of every human being on the planet. That's science. Now, scientarianism doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of rules or structures. In fact, it really has just 5 core beliefs, and those are just designed as guides, really. This isn't a faith. We don't have a holy book. We might develop like a couple of little like meme practices here and there. For instance, if you'd like to, you could take communion with me. Mine's going to be some very cheap whiskey. Ooh. I am more nervous doing this one than I have like the last 12 Wingnut Roundups. Now, given that I am in fact an ordained minister, I'm going to do you guys a favor here. And if you'd like to, you can hold up whatever it is that you're taking communion with. And you can hold it up to the screen. I'm going to sanctify it real quick. Gooba jooba 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 jooba. There you go. Now it is officially Holy Libations. So how is this whole thing going to work? Well, I'm going to bang around because I haven't really quite figured out how to navigate my podium here. But first and foremost, we want to make sure that we're a positive change in the world. And for that reason, we have this. So a few years back, I got a chance to do some charity live streaming on Twitch. And I'm happy to say this is one of the Donors Choose charities that I chose. We got fully funded. Loved it. Very, very happy that we got that done. So we have another one actually right here. And this is for Mrs. Chandler's Science Lab. The link is in the description down below. So first and foremost, I want to make things very, very clear. If you've got money to burn on like internet entertainment, put it here. Put it here. Before anything else, put it here. Help out some kids. First and foremost. If after that you have a little bit and you want to donate to the show, I appreciate that. Everything that's made during the Revelations in Science broadcasts goes into the church bank account and has to be used. It is a 501c3, so there will also be full transparency. I'm going to start publishing the financials openly. Everything that goes in, anybody can see it. They can see exactly how much each show makes, etc., etc. Then, if you have any more after that and you wish to contribute it to our GoFundMe, it's just to hopefully someday establish a physical location. Hopefully I'll be able to find like some grants or something to really make up the main difference. So that's where we're going. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on through the show. I'm still getting used to this too. Whoa. Wow. I love it. I love it. I don't know. Hopefully you guys are digging it too. I have to like click over to here. I got this fancy new setup that I'm like trying to figure out how everything works. There we go. Hi everybody. How are you? Hope you're doing good. Now you have a holy water bottle. Excellent. That's fantastic. All right. So, for our very first episode, we're going to do our very first JAnon report. Now, see, the Church of Scientarianism, it has its own secretive, shadowy figure that feeds us information related to cult-like activities, and it's the mysterious J. So, with that, let's go to the JAnon report. This is where I'll have like music. It's a JAnon report. Something like that. All right. What are we looking at here? Oh, yeah. Probably should have gotten that ready. Boom. QAnon. Now, over the course of my my job here on YouTube, I have tracked many, many cults. Some very, very small things like the Lord Stephen Christ and his 2 adherents, to larger things like Scientology. I've had the pleasure of getting a chance to talk to Ron Miscavige quite a few times. Wonderful guy. But never have I ever seen a more potentially dangerous cult than QAnon. Now, I tend to shy away from talking about it too much because I don't really want to get political on my channel, but there is no avoiding the fact that QAnon presents an existential threat to basically everything. And it would be fine if it held to its own rules, and obviously, when there were promises of a grand revolution happening, and nothing did happen, they would just go away. But they won't. The problem with QAnon is a larger problem that most people don't really seem to quite understand. Disaffected people that are looking for some kind of answers, looking for some kind of way to make their lives either special or an answer against those things that are really truly starting to weigh them down and bug them. Maybe you feel disaffected by the media. Maybe you feel out of touch with the way in which society is progressing. Doesn't matter. But it is no coincidence that QAnon has an unholy alliance with anti-vaxxers, something that I have been bringing up quite a bit lately, and it is something that we have to be very, very aware of. Like I said, I'm a little nervous on this broadcast, but this is fun. All right. So, what makes people fall for QAnon? That's the main thing that we have to look at. Well, it's a cult. It's the same as any other kind of cult. It's a cult that ultimately is trying to promise something special. It's the same thing that happens with people who believe in, say, magical healing crystals or any other faith-based system that largely just goes around trying to control people. Now, we see this. Maybe you even have some of these people in your lives that they will then cut you out if they feel like you are not adhering to the same ideas and values. If you don't believe that society, nay, say the world, is being controlled by a bunch of child-molesting adrenochromatics, well, then they might just cut you off. Maybe this is some of your family or your friends. And it's horrifying to see, and it's incredibly hard to deprogram. But if these are people that you care about, probably is something that you should try and do. Now, QAnon is only a small fraction of this larger mentality, but it is quite possibly the loudest at the moment and the largest percentage chunk. And hopefully we won't actually see the ramifications of it for years to come, but I am not quite so certain about that. No, I think this is something that's going to stick around for a while, unfortunately. So, that leads us to why fights over the COVID-19 vaccine are everywhere on Facebook, and this is happening quite a bit. Now, as I said, anti-vaccine cranks are in the same boat as most of the QAnon people. And as QAnon has been publicly embarrassed, these people are going to start leeching out and trying to find other things to cling on to. You ever been to a protest? You ever been to a protest that had a very specific singular idea that they were marching for? Maybe it was civil rights, maybe it was, I don't know, back in the day, I attended an anti-GMO march once. It happens to us all. But when I was there, I noticed something very, very specific. There were people that were protesting something else, trying to piggyback off of. It's this type of mentality that tends to make people lump together and start to go with various different things at the same time. Same thing is going to happen with QAnon. Now, I do have something to show you here in a minute, and it's quite fascinating. It's very relevant to this channel as well. But these fights about the COVID-19 vaccine are everywhere on Facebook, and COVID right now is a massive threat to our society. The numbers have never been higher. And while the numbers have never been higher, while people are losing their loved ones, we have a constant barrage of people trying to spread misinformation, and that misinformation can lead to people dying. It has, and is, right now. Right now. This is all over social media. And as much as social media might say, well, we're trying to curb it, it's an ongoing fight. For instance, they tried to do the same thing about QAnon, yet QAnon still prevails. It's always a battle, and it's a battle that we can't just rely on people like tech giants to try and save us from. We have to do it ourselves as well. We have to confront it. We have to combat it. We have to arm ourselves with the truth. And that's what scientarianism is all about. It's all about trying to instill these things in us and in everybody else that we know, so that at least they get the factual information. It's not about controlling people, but God, if we can at least make a little bit of a dent and at least put the truth out there, then we're doing something. We're being a force for change, a force for good. Sometimes I know it feels like we're trying to fight against the tide. It's tough. That's something that I feel very, very real. Oh, wow. No, I lost it. Where was it? If you took one look at the Facebook group Vaccines Exposed, it seemed clear what it was all about. It was a group opposed to deadly vaccinations with over 13,000 members on a platform known to harbor anti-vaccine conspiracy theories. And that's a small one. That's a very, very small one compared to, say, Larry Cook and Stop Mandatory Vaccination, which thankfully has been taken down. But that dude, man, he had a massive, mammoth group. Some of its followers' recent posts included a video falsely claiming the COVID-19 vaccine will kill people, and a post claiming children are having cancer injected into them. Hashtag facts. It was so convincing, Facebook removed the group January 15 for violating the site's community standards. But Vaccine Exposed is really a honeypot group run by vaccine advocates, hoping to attract the attention of anti-vaxxers and people on the fence. Fascinating. Actually, that's pretty good. Man. So I read the middle of this one. That's a good example of some way to actually try and battle against it. A honeypot to try and get people in and then convince them of how exactly they might be wrong. Those people have the patience of a saint, and if I could, I'd buy them all a beer. But, like I said, this is something that is not really going to go away anytime soon. Let's see. Like I said, I'm having to do this with a touch screen. Here's another example. Here on Facebook. Actually, we're not restreaming on Facebook quite yet. I tried to get this restreaming on Twitch at the same time as we're restreaming on YouTube. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it done in time, but we'll try that next week. But on Facebook, here's a very good example. The cult of Scientology runs a lot of ads on Facebook, and they do start talking about things like the truth about prescription drugs, and they, in general, are spewing a bunch of pseudoscience nonsense. It's constant. It's an overwhelming barrage. Organic Consumers Association. Who benefits from the reckless or intentional release of a pandemic virus? Bill Gates tops the list. This is a verified account. Running an ad making claims that there was an intentional release of a pandemic in order for Bill Gates to make money. Fascinating. I'm sure they think that the viruses or the vaccine is full of microchips, or maybe it'll make you gay or something like that. It's not like that's the weirdest thing we've ever heard. Just garden variety anti-vaccine propaganda, which Facebook has said over and over again that they were going to get rid of on their website. No sense leaving money on the table, right, Zuck? Live Energized. Learn how to make alkaline water at home. Every method explained and tested. Another sponsored ad run on Facebook. This is the kind of thing that we're up against. And this is overwhelmingly the same group of people, the same group of fear-mongers, conspiracy theorists that are constantly trying to push this stuff onto you and onto your loved ones. Now, then we have our celebrity guests. I'm sure some of you guys have, you might remember Kelly Brogan. I've done a few videos on Kelly Brogan in the past, and she's a wackadoo wingnut. Yeah, we'll go with that. Famously was boosted by her interview with Joe Rogan, where she continued to regurgitate the same line of bullshit over and over and over. New York State Medical Agency opens investigation into Goop's COVID-denying trusted expert Kelly Brogan. The Office of Professional Medical Conduct is investigating Dr. Brogan, a licensed psychiatrist, relating to her claims that the coronavirus potentially does not exist and for potentially misleading about her board certifications. You have to wonder what exactly they think is happening to the people that are dying from COVID. Is it just other things that they're dying from, or is it potentially that they are not actually dying? On the same line as the flat earthers who believe that, say, Australia isn't real or whatever. So yeah, there's an investigation pending into it. One interesting thing, though, is Goop has since cut ties with Brogan, having scrubbed all of her content from its website. Brogan continues to spew disinformation about the virus on alt-right social media platform Telegram. Now, there's a lot more stuff that goes on Telegram than just a bunch of alt-right stuff, but nevertheless, it is something important to keep in mind. But then, here's where things take a very dark turn. Cult-like paranoia. Anti-vaxxer dad kills son, 9 years old, in murder-suicide after ranting that the COVID jab would be used as government mind control. Stephen O'Loughlin, 49, was found dead with a gunshot wound inside of his San Francisco apartment along with his 9-year-old son, Pierce. Police found the two bodies late Wednesday night after they received a welfare call from Pierce's mom, Leslie Hu. O'Loughlin was in the middle of a legal battle with Hu over his vaccinations and health care. Hu, who divorced O'Loughlin in 2016, called police after she was informed her son didn't show up for class at the $35,000 a year tuition Catholic school and convent. Man, that's an expensive school. An attorney for Hu, Lori Natchless, said O'Loughlin had untreated mental illnesses that manifested itself through a paranoia of vaccines and his obsession over Pierce's health. Poor kid. I think it is undeniable that Pierce's father suffered from untreated mental illness, which resulted in his taking the life of his son and his own life. Pierce wasn't killed because of a disagreement over a stuffy nose. He wasn't killed over a disagreement regarding wasn't killed over a disagreement regarding vaccinations. He was killed for more complex reasons. In one filing, Hu said O'Loughlin joined a New Age self-help group in 2012, becoming convinced the government was using mind control on civilians through vaccines. She wrote her ex-husband's stance on vaccinations has taken on a cult-like tone. Hu apparently was trying to get Pierce vaccinated over O'Loughlin's objections, and said the two were awaiting a court date over the matter. O'Loughlin instead argued that Pierce had several severe side effects from getting vaccinated as a baby, including weight loss and diarrhea. I think for that we're going to have a sip of whiskey. Man. Too many times this happens. Too many times we see the effects of misinformation. We see the effects of cult-like behavior. We see the effects of people pushing pseudoscience and nonsense out in the world. And who does it harm ultimately in the end? Them. Fucking kids. Kids. How many videos do I have to make? How many times do I have to talk about people who end up killing their children, either through medical misadventure or, in this case, just through outright murder? We allow these things to proliferate. We allow these types of mentalities to breed among us. We allow people to walk along with the same lines of just, I'm trying to put my ideas out there in the world. Your ideas can lead to suffering. They can lead to death. There's arguments for liberty. There's arguments about the psychology of wanting to attack ideas as best they can on a mutual level of conversation and respect. And that sounds nice. That sounds great. But this keeps happening. Over and over and over. It just keeps happening. This kid didn't have to die. And yet it continues to go. And unfortunately, it's this type of mentality. Mentality like the anti-vaxxers. Mentality like the conspiracy nuts. The mentality of people like QAnon that continue to proliferate and promote and push these dangerous, fucked up ideas. And if it was just some guy, some dude... Let's see a picture of this piece of shit. Come here. There we go. Nope. If it was just this asshole who put a gun in his mouth and blew his fucking brains out, who cares? Fine. You made that choice for yourself, but he didn't just make that choice for himself, he made it for his kids. And people are going to continue to do this, and they're going to continue to follow these dangerous ideas. Now, one more thing before we move on, and we'll end this segment and go to something a lot more happy. This is actually rather amusing, but kind of fucked up too. Noted wingnut that I featured on my channel quite a few times, and especially in the Wingnut Roundup, Truth or Talk. Verstine, well, she was busy over this month, and this is from her channel. Look at where she was. USA! 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 Where could could she possibly be?
Corona.
Where are you, Verstein? Here, I'll show you. Oh, right there. QAnon rots your goddamn brain. Let's take a break for a second. Have some whiskey. Have some of your sanctified beverage for a moment. Just enjoy. I love it. Man, I'm cheesing it up with this a little bit too much, maybe. I don't know. I absolutely adore it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm having too much fun with this. Did want to let everybody know any of the Streamlabs or Super Chats or anything like that will all be read after the sermon, but before the exorcism. So don't wait. Just stick around for that. You'll have some fun. Now, one of the things that I really wanted to talk about, too, about this whole concept of scientarianism as well. I've had quite a few people ask me some very strange questions. Like, Jeff, are you starting a cult? No. Not starting a cult. Not really that interested. Main thing you got to take away from cults is ultimately there's one of two things that they're trying to do. Either one, they're trying to get your money, or number two, they're trying to tell you how to live. I'm never going to tell you how to live. Never. That's not something that I'm interested in. Most I can do is maybe give you some good tools. I like that idea. That's not a bad idea, you know. But that should only be taken as helpful advice. But the other one, cults, and we could say evangelicals, like to take your money, but they like to take your money for false pretenses or hollow promises. Plant a seed. Plant a seed. I've even heard them say plant a seed to help God get rid of the coronavirus, as if God needs money to be able to come down and eradicate a pandemic. I don't think it works that way, and honestly, if I was God, that would really piss me off to be so presumptuous. That's just me talking. So instead, the whole idea is to be as transparent as possible and be a force for good. And ultimately, there's no retirement plan for YouTubers. There isn't. So I would like to build something that is bigger than just YouTube, something that goes further, does more, does something, you know, something different, something than just simply making the same videos and beating my fucking head against the wall because some dude killed his kid. Because I gotta tell you, it has been wearing on me quite a while. It's very frustrating. It's a very hard thing to deal with after a while. But I digress. I'm literally just going to play church music every time I need to take a sip of whiskey. That's what I'm doing. Wonderful. All right. So this comes to our second section of the show, and this is going to be the sermon. And the sermon is something that I just think is interesting, something fascinating, something about science, something that might instill a sense of wonder, because it sure does for me. And for that reason, today I have chosen Venus. Yes, Venus. Venus, the second planet from our sun, our quite close neighbor. In fact, I believe one of the closest in body size to Earth as well. Venus is a fascinating planet. It burns hotter than Mercury does, despite the fact that Mercury is far closer to the sun. It takes over 250 days, I believe, for Venus to make a full rotation. So the Venusian day, I think I actually have it right here. The Venusian day is 243 Earth days. It's bizarre. It's weird. But the reason why I bring this up is because recently, last year, around the 14th of September, scientists revealed that they had found phosphine in Venus's atmosphere about 55 kilometers above the surface, some phosphine gas. Now, this is interesting because phosphine is, in effect, evidence of some sort of organic life, potentially. Now, since then, there has been like a revised study that shows it wasn't nearly as much as they originally thought. However, their best guess is it's there. That's strange. Now, what we have to understand about organic elements is that they're actually very, very common in the universe. They're all over the place. In fact, it's almost an absolute certainty that somewhere out there in the universe, there is, in fact, life. We're sure of it. It has to be. Statistically speaking, we can get into, say, the Fermi paradox, but I think I'll actually write like a whole sermon just for the Fermi paradox someday. But according to that, it is an almost absolute statistical certainty that life is out there in the universe. So is it possible places like, say, Europa, a frozen moon that has obviously liquid water underneath the icy shelves, or even, maybe, the hellish landscape of Venus has some form of organic life? Is it possible? Maybe it's buried under the rock and it's released gases out through the cracks. Maybe. Potentially. But when you look at Venus, it seems almost impossible. For instance, when I said that For instance, when I said that Venus is in fact the hottest planet, I really meant it. The average mean temperature is 737 Kelvin. That's also 464 Celsius. And for us Americans, that's 867 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot. That is boiling, boiling hot. Far beyond. Vaporizing hot. So it does seem kind of strange. It does seem kind of strange, the idea that life might actually exist on a planet like this. I mean, when we think about contemporary visions of hell, or classic visions of hell, we think of some burning hellish landscape, sulfur raining from the sky. That's Venus. Venus is hell. So how could life exist on Venus? How could life exist in hell? Well, we do have a few contemporary examples that we can kind of look at when it comes to right here at home. This is the tardigrade. Isn't it cute? I think he's adorable. A tardigrade is about that big. It usually gets about 1 millimeter in size. Now, a tardigrade is also known as a water bear. They can live just about anywhere. In fact, you can find sediment at the bottom of a lake. It doesn't have to be extreme places in which they live. A tardigrade is strangely and uniquely evolved in a way to survive almost anything. We can call them an extremophile. Tardigrades have been found to withstand environments as cold as minus 328 degrees Fahrenheit or as high as over 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, it's not quite Venus temperatures, but that's pretty damn hot. But it's even crazier. They can also survive radiation, boiling liquids, massive amounts of pressure, up to 6 times the pressure of the deepest part of the ocean. You can't squish them. It's impossible. Can't squish them. The unsquishable tardigrade. So, what's also fascinating about this, too, is tardigrades have been around for a long time. And it's pretty much rumored that they're going to be here long after we're very, very gone. Somehow, these what the hell word was I thinking of? Stalt? These stalwart and hardy little creatures are somehow evolved to be effectively impenetrable, indestructible, the indestructible water bear. Now, is it possible if we can have creatures such as this that can exist around, say, lava vents at the bottom of the ocean, the pressure cannot kill them, that they could also potentially live in places that otherwise life could not flourish, places like Venus? We know that the cold vacuum of space isn't going to kill them. We've tried. Didn't work. Didn't take. Tardigrade? A-okay. And that's just how these things tend to work. But that also is a story about life. Life is an infection on an otherwise cold and uncaring material universe. Life really doesn't care necessarily what the conditions might be. If it has the chance to proliferate, life will proliferate. That's how it works. Life finds a way. Now, we can again look at an example here at home to just see, for an example, how prevalent life actually is and how it has been functioning so far. Our current best guess for the beginnings of life here on the planet Earth is around 3.8 billion years ago, and that's just very, very simple, microscopic, single-cellular life forms. And it took actually quite a long time before we had anything related to multicellular life. And we're talking millions, hundreds of millions, almost a billion years afterwards, in which we started to see multicellular life. It took a long time, a very long time. But as it did, things started to explode. And that's what life does. It explodes. It doesn't really care. 650 million years ago, late Proterozoic, first skeletal elements, first soft-bodied metazoans, first animal traces. In the Cambrian, our fish, Ordovician, sudden diversification of metazoan families, etc., etc. First vascular land plants were somewhere around 400 million years ago. We start to get first amphibians. Then we start to see life crawl its way onto land. We get reptiles, we get dinosaurs, we get mammals around the same time, differentiate into birds. And it's all the way up until... what was that? I'm trying to remember the actual number for human beings. I have it actually right here. Doop. Where did we go? Human beings is not that long ago. It's a flash in the pan compared to... Humans diverge from their closest relatives, the chimpanzees and the bonobos, and that is just simply the differentiating type that eventually would become humans 6 billion years ago. That is a drop in the bucket compared to how long life has been on this planet. Think about where you are right now. How close are you to a patch of, say, a yard? Maybe a park. If you go and you stand in a park, anywhere around you in a radius of maybe 50 meters, millions upon millions upon millions of random mutations are happening right at that moment. Life, chaos, creation, an infectious change, randomness out there in the universe. And out of all of those random chances, somehow, millions of years from the billions of years since the very first single-cellular organisms, eventually you get to me. And you, and everyone we know, and everything that we see, all comes from that. All comes from chance and chaos, and potentiality. Our planet looked a lot different when life first sprung on this planet. Redundant, but okay. And as it changed, so too did the life on that planet. So too did everything. Everything is in constant change. Everything always changes. Everything always adapts. That's what life is. Life is change. Life is adaptation. All the way from the beginning of time, for the birth of our solar system, all the way up until where us very strange, mostly hairless mammals are now talking to microphones and wearing funny suits. And that's life. That's where life comes from. Now, Venus. This brings us back to our main central focus. What about Venus? Was Venus always hell? Was Venus always this strange, burning, caustic hellhole of a planet? No, it wasn't. At least as best as we can guess. See, in, what year was this? I believe this was... might have been last year, actually. Yeah, last year. Michael Way of NASA presented a very different view of Venus on September 20th, 2019. New research reveals Venus may once have been a temperate world, more like Earth, with a shallow ocean of liquid water on its surface for some 2 to 3 billion years. The new research suggests that only around 700 million years ago, a dramatic transformation began for Venus, ultimately resurfacing some 80% of our sister world. These scientists said in a statement that their study gives a new view of Venus's climatic history and may have implications for the habitability of exoplanets in similar orbits. Weird. Huh. There we go. So 2 to 3 billion years that this planet could have been like home. Could have been just like here. Could have been just like Earth. 2 to 3 billion years of Venus effectively being a garden planet, because that's what Earth is. We have this beautiful, lush garden. Could have life lived there? Of course. Of course it could. Especially with the potentiality of liquid water, the infectiousness of life, the way in which these things actually work, the random mutation that can be present in all living things. So could have life lived there? Sure. It only took a few billion years for us to go from single cellular organisms to dinosaurs. Couldn't we have had the same on Venus? Sure. But then, what happened to Venus? Well, we know. More or less. We know more or less that Venus is the hellhole it is now because of runaway greenhouse gases, specifically massive amounts of carbon dioxide stored inside of the rocks and the crust of the planet being released and having a runaway greenhouse effect that ultimately cooked the planet to shit. Now, am I going to make an allegory here about climate change? Do I need to? Maybe we'll do a whole sermon on climate change at some point. But I think it's not that hard, not that far of a stretch for you to basically put together the pieces, to really understand where I'm coming from when it comes to talking about Venus, talking about the potentiality of life, talking about the ways in which it changed, and some of the strange connections and spooky connections that we can take away from that and how it might apply to our more contemporary world now. But then again, if life evolved on Venus and then Venus changed into this, couldn't some life maybe still exist? Couldn't there have been a Venusian tardigrade, a Venusian water bear that evolved in all those years, billions of years, and that somehow managed to survive? Maybe. Personally, I think it's pretty interesting to think about. And that is the sermon. Oh, yeah.
Life finds a way.
Yep. Feels good. Feels good. How you guys feeling out there? Huh? How you doing, chat? Let's take a look here. Actually, let's play a little bit more of this church organ music while I take a sip. Can we launch anti-vaxxers into Venus? That's a fascinating question, and honestly, kind of here for it. Then again, all life is sacred. Or should be. So I'm going to have to go with let's not do that. I did know that, actually. All right. I love you too. I love you too. How you doing? Alrighty. So let's see. What else do I have programmed in here? It's kind of fun too, like the way I've got this whole thing set up. Also, something to keep in mind too. Revelations in Science isn't really designed to be a very long show. I'm shooting for like maybe an hour to an hour and a half. I also don't have hardly any of the extra assets created quite yet. I wanted to go with like a very plain white kind of atmosphere for this, just to be like, we're gonna build from here. We're gonna create from here. We're gonna do more from here, and kind of give that vibe, give that feeling, you know. But I'm excited. All right. Sweet. Okay. So just to let everybody know, after I read them now, don't bother sending in super chats or Streamlabs or anything like that, because I'm only going to do them once, and it's going to be right before the exorcism. So, Ed Star says 3 cheers for 16-ounce holy water bottles. Hell yeah. Some B-Tard says tardigrades can only survive extreme conditions in hibernation. They can't actually live in extreme environments. Well, they're still alive while they're hibernating. But yes, you are absolutely correct. That's true. But then again, is it impossible? Is it impossible? Is there a potentiality for these types of things out there in the world? I think so. I absolutely think so. All right. Around 1 hour sounds better? I think so too. You should do a sermon in person when COVID is over. I think that would be fantastic. All the political landmines are starting a religion. Well, listen, here's the thing. Because the main thing is, I'm always going to be honest with you guys. There are absolutely ways in which you can game the YouTube system. All it requires is that ultimately you don't really have to have any ethics. And I have this horrible thing called ethics. So that's why I can't do that. So instead, I figure this is the next best thing. But to say that I don't expect people to find this a little bit controversial, of course they're going to. But that's okay. That's okay. Listen, not everything has to be controversial. Not everything has to be like some kind of weird, underhanded smear. Not everything has to be some kind of sneaky attack or some weird kind of commentary on some of the more stupid or shitty things that people do in the world. And that's why I'm going to give you an exorcism now. All right, ladies and gentlemen. You may have noticed there's a little thing down here. And that's called the testimonial voicemail. Testimonial voicemail is where you can leave a voice message for the Church of Scientarianism about the effects in which you receive from what's going to happen right now. You see, like any good minister on the internet, live streaming my services, I too am blessed with the power of exorcism. You may have seen him. Everything from Bob Larson to Ed Citronelli, and those are just my favorites. I mean, there's a bunch more out there. There's so many. It's absolutely ridiculous. Using the power of whatever they believe is empowering them to effect some sort of change through the digital bits and packets streaming through the power lines and satellites and blah, 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 blah. Well, I can do that too. I understand, of course, that not every time is it Jezebel, but it could be. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with you. I understand that it might even be something that I will never truly understand. But if there is something out there that's causing you a problem, if there is something out there that in some way is affecting your life negatively, maybe you got a splinter. Maybe you're a little gassy. Who knows? I'm going to attempt to utilize the power of a religion, which really is only tax breaks, to heal you through the internet. Are you ready? Are you ready out there? If you're ready, please tell me in the chat that you are ready to receive the exorcism. Are you ready, chat? Let's get a little exorcism fuel in here, huh? Chris Hansen is still streaming. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yes? You ready? All right. Whatever during... Take two. Whatever demons might be inside of your body, whether it be that undigested burrito, whether it be your self-doubt, whether it be just that damn stupid sore on the top of your mouth you can't stop fucking with your fucking tongue, I'm here to tell you now, utilizing the power inside of me, that you are healed. I use this power now. Whatever that demon is that burrito? Is it some gas? Be gone! Is it that crippling self-doubt thinking that you won't get that job and so you don't even want to put in a job application? Be gone! Know now that exorcisms don't do shit. But if for some reason something did happen, by all means, please, you can leave me a voicemail. And we'll play them on the show. Only leave me a voicemail if you're okay with me playing it on the show. And we'll have a little bit of fun with that the next time we do it. Be gone, demons, be gone. Did somebody say toothache? Oh, bro. Oh, man. Dude. Oh, God. You know, if I actually had legit the power to cure anybody of a toothache, I would do that in a heartbeat. That is the absolute worst. Oh, my God. God damn, I hate toothaches. Your rectum just prolapsed? Usually that's a different type of exorcism that does that one. Oh, man. So, like I said, there's a bunch of stuff, too, that I want to do with this program. A bunch more, like, really fun, silly things. But also, when I do the segment, it's not just going to be like the JAnon Report. Some weeks it's going to be things like... looking into bogus cures or whatever, things that I would otherwise maybe make like a very quick, simple video on. It doesn't mean I'm gonna stop making videos. I do still intend to do so. In fact, there's a chiropractor here in Oregon that killed somebody and lost his license. I'm gonna make a video on that real quick. There's quite a few others, but being able to do this in like a live environment actually frees up a little bit more of my time so that I can do higher production value stuff, like bigger deep dives into things that I think are very important, or more funny things like Hemlock Moonwolf videos, that kind of thing. Because I've actually built up a crew. Scientarianism isn't just me. I've got a whole team that I'm working with at this point. And some of you guys who like watch some of my other stuff, you know some of them, Ian, Cousin Matt, etc., etc. So we've got a lot more stuff planned for you. It should be a lot of fun. But by all means, guys, if you have suggestions for things that you'd like to see on this channel, please, by all means, let me know in the description down below. If you think, I don't think necessarily this episode, but if you think of the future, if we have a really good segment that maybe it should be clipped and made as its own video, let me know in the comments down below if you think that's a good idea too. But otherwise, the main thing that I think I want to push... This is important. Is where to go? Boink. Is this. Ultimately, at the end of the day, doing this show is fun, and it is going towards something that I do legitimately want to do. But first and foremost, always first and foremost, I'm going to encourage you to do things like this. If you got the disposable income, rather than tip to me, send it to them. Tips during this broadcast go to the church's bank account. I don't get to use any of that for personal or rent or anything like that. If you want to just specifically support me, well, we're going to do the Wingnut Roundup in 2 days, and that's all goes to me. So, but more than anything, I want to make sure that this is very transparent. There's no chances of fuckery, and people at least understand my intentions. We're not starting a cult. We started a religion. We didn't start a faith. We started a religion. And we're ministering in the form of this. Scientarianism is not a joke. It's not a parody. This show is like half parody. And that, ultimately, is that. So thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your attention. I hope you had fun. I had fun. I was nervous as hell. Man, this is spooky to do for the first time. But I love you guys very, very much. I will encourage you also, go check out Gameplay Metal. He made the song that you're going to hear in just a moment. And other than that, look forward to the promo for the Wingnut Roundup tomorrow. And then on Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, will be the Wingnut Roundup for January. And I've got a lot of crazy shit for you there. All right. I love you guys very much. See you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. This is the Right Reverend Dr. Jeff Holiday, PhD, signing off. Bye, everybody.